Episode of Shameless Plug. In my first episode, I interviewed someone called Lenore, which is myself. It was not interesting. In my second episode, I talked to Aaron Carey, the owner of Pipelineaudio Music School and the sound engineer behind Pipelineaudio. Let me just note that I love Pipelineaudio Music School. It's got a special place in my heart. I've been there for a while. Anyways, that's where I interviewed him. Roll the clip. Hi, welcome back to Shameless Plug. I'm here with an interview of Aaron Carey, the owner of Pipelineaudio Music School. So you're Aaron Carey, the owner of Pipelineaudio Music School, as I just said. Thank you for letting me interview you. I just want to figure out, some questions about the school. What classes and opportunities are offered here for all ages? Now, I'm going to go through each one. The first one is around studio time, how much studio time and what's the cost?
Well, the cost depends on what the project is. It's very variable, but I'm fully capable of recording whatever comes through the door to whatever quality they're willing to deal with or pay for.
That answers the question too. What type of classes do you offer here? What type of teachers and classes?
We have voice, piano, guitar, ukulele. We have 2 really good ukulele teachers. We do have brass and other things from time to time. We're always looking for more teachers. It's a great way to get involved in music in Hawaii is teach here. That's what we're always looking for.
And the last question is kid bands. Do you offer that to kid bands as well?
Of course. The thing that I spend the most time trying to make this place do is to be legit. And without a band coming from the school, it's not legit at all. So that's really what we spend a lot of time on here.
Okay, following up on that question of the kid bands, Pipelineaudio Music School provided the opportunity for a kid band to play at Ballsdale. Can you tell me about that?
That was our first kid band we had here after they played for about 3 years. One of the parents there, Jason Miller, who does a lot of the promotions of music stuff in Hawaii, he got us that show. His sons were the drummer and bass player for the Random Weirdos, and so that was with Jack White. One of the biggest opportunities any local band here has ever had, so we were pretty proud of that.
Thank you for that. Question 3. In addition of running your school, you are the talent behind Pipelineaudio, correct?
I'm wearing that guy's underwear.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what Pipelineaudio does?
Well, originally I was leaving the really big time studios to go out on my own, and I just needed a name real quick for a small studio that I was building. And my favorite ditch in Hawaii that I used to skate when I lived here before was Pipeline Bowls up in Hawaii Kai. And my favorite skate park in the whole world is the Pipeline in California, in Upland. And so I just named my studio after that, just Pipelineaudio, as simple as that was. And while running that studio, a lot of emerging technology was showing up. And I kind of jumped on board early convolution and impulses. That's when, if you were to type in Pipelineaudio in the internet, most of what you're going to come up with are drum samples and reverb impulses, and that kind of opened the door to working on software. Everything was moving to software right at that time, and so mostly what I associate with Pipelineaudio today is not so much studio recording, but the actual equipment that we use to record and mix audio.
Can you tell me what that audio is? I've heard in my notes it's called Reaper.
Well, Reaper is probably my proudest accomplishment. That was, we had a lot of the marketing system for most of the gear that you see out there was coming from a school right next to my studio, pretty much. And so people would bring over software to say, hey, record with this, and we would try it, but it never really did what we wanted it to do. It never seemed like it was designed by people who had to use it for a living. And so for years I was just kind of writing down what I would like to see in a digital audio workstation. And I finally got a chance to meet Justin Frankel, one of the greatest programmers in the world. He's the guy who invented Nutella, Winamp, all that stuff. And we just worked together to make a product that really was just for us to use, just me and my friends. We had no idea that it was going to take over the world the way it did. We didn't even really mean for it as a viable commercial project, and everybody said that there's no way it could have worked, but it was just a few months into the launch of a public beta that we had, I think, 30,000 users on the forum, so it took over the world.
I saw those records out and those CDs out there. Can you tell us who some of the bands you've worked in with the past?
So I did a few Megadeth albums, Dokken, some George Lynch stuff. I have lots of Metal Blade stuff, Sacred Reich, Vehemence, Flotsam and Jetsam. And there's a Sheryl Crow out there, Gin Blossoms. Pretty much if they were living in Arizona in the 90s and they were a big band, they had to come through our studio, which was Vintage Recorders back then. And that was like the place. So we lucked that place. We inherited Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac because they were a little bit superstitious about their gear, and we had bought the gear that they used to use, and so Stevie lived there anyway, so they started coming out there to record. So we got I think one of my first real projects there was the first record I'd ever bought in my life was Fear the Record. And the second record I ever bought was Sacred Reich's Ignorance. And we had Dave Mustaine from Megadeth in one side of the studio recording his solo album, and the singer that he brought in was Lee Ving from Fear. And Sacred Reich always puts a Fear cover on their Japanese release on every album. And none of us had any idea Lee Ving was coming. But so we ended up with Lee Ving singing on a cover of one of his songs. And we had Mega Dave on one side of the studio, Sacred Reich on the other. First two albums I ever bought had the two guys from it, so that was pretty awesome early on.
Here, are there any big projects that you're working on right now that you have like full time?
Well, the reason I'm even at this school is I needed a place to test gear and to use things in a real world environment. But since I've been in Hawaii, it's been very hard to find a programmer. And so if you know any programmers that can speak C++, send them to me. But right now I'm finally working on a plugin with Audio Assault, and actually on a couple of projects with them, but we just released one called Verb Station. That's for VST, audio units, real-time audio suite, whatever, Mac and PC. So I'm working on that right now. I'm working on trying to figure out the video matrix system in Reaper, trying to move to all my video in Reaper instead of the video editing programs I was using before. That's my big projects for right now.
Now I'm gonna talk about you, like get into what you do what do you do for free time? What do you do if you're not editing?
If I'm not here, then I'm either riding my bike at the skate park, or if I was back home, I'd be, if I wasn't at the skate park and I wasn't recording, I'd be rolling out into the desert looking for reptiles. That's my full-time hobby as an amateur herpetologist.
That's what I do at home as well. I collect lizards. Well, I try to catch them, and then I get bit.
My snake stick's still right there on the wall behind you.
What is the biggest piece of advice you recommend to bands that are starting out or just trying to record?
Well, if they're coming to make an album, I have on my website at Pipelineaudio.net, I have a version of an email that I used to send out to bands, and it was pretty insulting and pretty horrific. But if you make it through that filter, you're probably good to record anywhere. But for the most part, make sure your instruments work. Any studio would love to fix your instruments on studio time, and they're happy to do it, but it's a big waste of your money. Learn how to fix your instruments, learn how to work on your gear, and have working equipment when you get to the studio. Be prepared to be in tune at all times. Tune anytime you're not playing, make sure your stuff's in tune. Check the intonation. But most of the money that you're spending in the studio for a normal band is going to come down to the drums. So the drummer has got to be prepared. The gear's got to be good. Make sure there's no missing lugs and cracked heads and nothing squeaks. Just make sure all the drums technically work good, but also the setup of the drums. If your cymbals are too close to your toms and your hi-hats too close to the snare, it's just going to sound like a wash. We got ways to fix it, and we love to do that, but it's just going to cost you way more money. It's better to, if you look at a real studio kit, you'll notice the cymbals are really far away from the wooden drums. And most people don't learn to play that way. Most drum teachers don't teach that way, but if you look at the professional studio drummers, that's how their drums are set up. And that's not even getting into the writing of the drums. Like if you really want your drums to sound good, listen to what good recorded drums sound like. They're written in a way that the drums spell out changes that are coming up. They stay out of the way of things. They use toms as exclamation points, not as just a background noise. You really want to think about drum writing in terms of grammar, punctuation. Like, are you putting a comma here? Are you putting a period here? Are you putting an exclamation point here? Are you putting a question mark here? All those things can happen in your drum writing. And if you listen to well done songs, those drums are written. You can actually hear the punctuation in them. And anything else, just make sure your singer's not too terrified. That's usually a big one. Yeah, but every singer in the world will get a cold right before they have to record, so there's really no helping that.
This is the last question, and obviously my favorite. Who is your favorite two-person kid band that name rhymes with "Honey, I'm Shrinking"?
Oh man, that's a hard one. We're out drinking. Could be Underage Thinking.
No, that's all I need. Thank you, Aaron, for letting me interview you, and we'll see you back at home or the studio or whatever. But thank you again, and we'll see you on Shameless Plug. Wow, that was a really cool interview, wasn't it? Don't answer that. I know you were thinking it. It was a cool interview. Anyways, thank you, Aaron Carey, for letting me interview you. If you guys need anything, go check him out at Pipelineaudio Music School. He'll answer some questions, and he'll help you with your music stuff. And as always, I'll see you next time on Shameless Plug.